Welcome back, everybody, to the Creator Deal, where we talk about everything and anything related to the creator economy. Today, I have with me a very special guest. She is someone that has founded her one own company before, and not only that, she began as an esthetician, and now she works in the influencer marketing world. I wanted to introduce to you guys Caitlin Hart.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. By the way, I was doing some research on you, Caitlin,
Yeah,
and you have such an interesting career.
I
Like I
do.
said, you started with becoming an esthetician,
Yeah,
and you kind of fell into the role of an influencer marketing manager. So tell me about
yes.
that. Tell me about your journey on how you
My
became
gosh.
an influencer marketing
It's been a
manager.
long journey. I started my career in aesthetics in 2010, so 16 years ago. And I have been through just about every phase in the entrepreneur journey, in the marketing journey. So I started, obviously working for other people, building a clientele that way. I eventually went out on my own and founded my own studio where it was still just me. I was a solo esthetician, specifically here in Nashville, Tennessee, where I'm based. And yeah, went a couple years doing my own thing, kind of solo entrepreneurship, and then expanded my business to bring on a staff and really grow. Unfortunately, did that in February of 2020, which was a
Mm,
really rough next few months, especially for a hands-on business. So we opened and we were shut down about a week later for the
wow.
next 3 to 4 months. So that phase had a pretty rough start, but I did scale that company and until I was ready to do new things. And in 2024, I was able to sell that company, take a little bit of time off. I did some creative projects, but ultimately, I knew from all of my years of experience, the one thing that everything had in common was marketing. I had built and scaled multiple companies. I had moved to new cities, had to build new clientels, had to rebuild after the pandemic. So, marketing was definitely something that I learned a lot about. And I had worked with influencers off and on throughout the years as well. Knew a lot of people that were even personal friends in that. So it is just kind of was a natural move once I was ready to get back to work.
Yeah, you mentioned that you're really good at marketing. And
Yeah.
so this is a really interesting point because did you go to school for marketing?
No, no, not at all. I mean, that really came from the almost 15 years of having to market my own brand, being a creator myself, and having to grow a company.
Wow. So it basically all came from experience and
Yeah.
learning how to market your own companies and for other
Yeah.
companies as well.
Yep.
That's really interesting because me too. I have never came from a marketing background. And for some reason, when I'm building this company, I'm like, okay, I need to learn how to market because
Yeah.
how are people going to know about my company if I don't
Right.
market myself? And
Right.
so that was like the number one lesson that I started to learn when I was building my business. I was like, okay, I run an influencer marketing agency, but at the same time, it's such a relationship based, industry, right?
Right.
And I'm sure it's the same for you. I've been
Yeah.
seeing your LinkedIn post about, negotiating with
Yeah.
creators and,
Yeah.
negotiating
Yeah.
with brands in general. So I was like, okay, so I wanted to kind of go into that, right?
Yeah.
And so you said you worked with influencers often. In what ways did you work with influencers before going into this role?
Yeah, so on my side, it's hard to say I even worked brand side, but as a small business, even I've utilized influencers to market my small business. I would have influencers come in to get services in exchange for posts. In the time in between owning my skincare clinic and then really getting into influencer marketing, I also started a production company here in Nashville that I'm still a part of, where we produce immersive high ticket events. And that is where we heavily leaned on influencer marketing. So that was really the first time, it wasn't just like, hey, come in and get a service and post about it and we'll see what happens. This was like, we really had to build an influencer strategy to sell tickets to these events. And I met a lot of people that way. I definitely got some experience on that side of things just from utilizing influencers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So influencer marketing is a part of marketing. Obviously, there's paid
Right.
ads, there's so many different ways of marketing your business. how would you rate influencer marketing, and how is it changing the state of what influencer marketing is today?
As far as like rating it based on its importance with other things, I would say, I mean, you with marketing you almost need to like cast this web, right? You need to have a little bit of all of it because the influencer marketing I do think is sometimes in some ways the most important. Influencer or even just word of mouth, hearing people talk about your company, your brand, your product is usually in a lot of situations what's introducing a customer to your product. It's then what they can do with that information. If they go to your website, if they're now, getting your ads, like you want all of those other things to reinforce after they've been introduced to your product through somebody genuinely sharing about it. So I think it's really critical as an entry point, but you also have to have the marketing funnel built out after that entry point
Right.
for it to do anything.
Right. I feel like when I talk to a lot of up and coming brands, and something that they say is like, "Oh, I've spent like $500 on an influencer and there was no result." And to
Yeah.
me, it's like it's because you guys didn't have a good funnel. Like you guys just
Yeah.
sprayed and just hope for the best. That
Yeah.
hopefully that piece of content is going to go viral. But you and I both know that there
Yeah.
needs to be a strategy behind the influencer marketing. Like you can't just pay an influencer and then just hope for the best. You gotta,
Exactly. They are
you
not
know,
actually marketers. They're just your
exactly.
it's like when you hire a videographer, like they're
Hmm.
doing a very specific job and it's your job to know what to do with that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so, what would you say is like the biggest misconception when working with creators?
I think I don't know. I mean, part of what you already touched on, that it's just like, you can throw money at a thing and it'll be successful. Any kind of like guaranteed ROI on the money you spend is not necessarily going to be there. People that, want to spend $2,000 and be guaranteed that they're going to make that money back or make $10,000 back, like it's just not how it's going to work. And then I think just like rates in general, there's a lot of the people that do this and work with influencers, the large brands, they get it. But I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what people can just do for free or do for a really low amount. Because like we said, influencer marketing is so crucial now, so much more than it was 5, 10, 15 years ago. This is what you're paying for instead of paying for an ad on TV, and what you're getting is almost more valuable. And so I think we have to really shift the mindset to understand that like the value that we're paying for there.
I agree. I completely. I think the game has changed when it
Yeah.
comes to advertisement. Back in the day, it was all TV ads, and they were like the big hot thing.
Yeah.
But nowadays, social media has more eyes than any other platform out there.
Yeah.
And that's how important influencer marketing has been, right? And
Right.
now I feel like a lot of brands have been taking a part of influencer marketing, even though they don't know much about it, because they're like, oh, there's a reason why these big companies are you spending money on influencers.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that makes me to the point. How much did the creator compensation, how has that evolved over the years? Because I know we've been at it for a while, and
Yeah,
I've noticed some
it's
changes.
it's definitely it's such a hard thing because I have seen things all across the board. I've seen yeah, and influencers of all different sizes charging all different rates. So it's so hard to say like this is how it's changed, but I think we're in an era right now where it has gotten more competitive. I think there was a moment where like people were barely paying for influencer marketing and then this wave of like okay, we're all in, we're paying, we're throwing a lot of money at it. And now we're at a point where it's just more competitive and it just has to make sense. And maybe that's because the numbers are there. Maybe you have insane views, or maybe you're just so on brand for this particular brand that the rates make sense. But I do think we have to do a little more effort to make the rates make sense in
Mm.
2026.
So when you say rates make sense, what do you
Yeah.
mean by that? Like, how would you measure what a rate actually is worth?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's so many different factors. So number one being, I mean, I hardly don't care about follower count at this point. It's really
Same here.
like the views and engagement.
Hmm.
So the views and engagement of my creator, the the brand alignment, if this creator is like so insanely niche and this brand is literally what their whole page talks about, and we know, okay, maybe their videos are only getting 30,000 views, but we know like literally everyone that follows them, like this is the one thing they're here for. We know that their entire audience is the target market. Like that justifies a little bit of a higher rate too, knowing how super, super aligned they are. And then I think another thing that people don't talk about as much is demand. I have a tiny creator right now. I mean, views regularly under 10K. And she, for whatever reason, people love her content. They love to run ads with it. It's really beautiful. And she cannot keep up with the amount of brand requests. And so
Wow.
I'm no longer pricing her per view. I'm pricing her because she's done 8 brand deals this month. We can't take on another one that doesn't meet this rate. So
Amazing.
there are a lot of different factors that go into it.
Yeah. And so I agree. The rates are all over the place. I feel like it's still the Wild West where nobody really knows how to price
Yeah.
themselves. But I agree with you. Like, the super niche creators where they have a certain audience and then the audience literally follows them for that specific reason.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
have a way higher conversion rate than like a normal, 150,000 follower
Yeah.
creator that is just has a very broad audience,
Yep.
you know. And so for me, I think I look at that as well. I look at what type of audience that they have,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, the brands need to feel like they're earning something out of working with this creator.
Yeah.
And so, you know, obviously, as influencer marketing agencies, we're kind of like pitching them these creators, or pitching them, oh, these creators would be really good for you. But a lot of the times they don't know why, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so for on the brand side, how would you kind of convince them, be like, even though they have lower follower count, she's
Yeah.
the best person to go with? How would you
Yeah,
go
I mean,
about
I
that?
think you have to just paint a picture. I think it's always helpful if you've got good enough communication with your creator to where you can go, okay, I want to pitch you to these brands. Can you send me some pitch ideas? So, getting those pitch ideas from the creator in your hand to send over with the emails, I think is crucial, especially if it might be a niche fit. If it's like, okay, this is crazy, but we have this crazy idea, like you've got to throw the idea out there.
And so, like, for the most part, when we do give out that idea, are brands kind of like reluctant to try out that idea, or are they kind of like, okay, let's see how it works?
I think sometimes it really, I think, comes back to relationships. So if I already have a relationship with that brand,
Hmm.
they've worked with me several times, they know who I am, they know I know what I'm talking about. Like they're going to be a lot more likely to maybe try out a crazy idea with a new creator than somebody that I'm like, hey, you've never heard of me before. Let me pitch you this wacky idea. So yeah, I think that really comes down to the relationship building and maybe starting to build those relationships with brands on things that are a little more that make sense, you know?
I agree. Yeah, I think, again, we're in a relationship business, right, where we try to
Yeah.
keep the relationship between creators, and not only creators but brands as well.
Right.
So how is that relationship different though? How would you
Yeah.
differentiate the two?
I mean, the creator relationship is a lot closer. I'm texting my creators every day. We become friends. We talk all the time. The brand is almost like our mutual client, you know? Even relating back to what I did previously, working in the skincare business with, with in a situation where I was having to build a clientele. The brands are almost like those skincare clients were for me, like we build close relationships, but they're not like my coworkers, you know what I mean? And the talent feels more like we're working together on a team and the brand is our client. And so we do build these really strong relationships, but it's a very professional relationship. It's very much like we're wanting to serve them. We're wanting to make sure that they get results so that they come back and work with us again.
Yeah, I agree. Even at True Karma here, we have a lot of different clients as well. Managing each one is definitely different because each, you know, client has a different personality, but
Yeah.
I think it's really important for us to kind of have that set standard of how we should deal with these relationships, because at the end of the day, they're the ones, spending money with
Yeah.
us to, use the creators or activate these creators that are important. Um,
Right.
you talk about negotiating a lot. In your
Yeah.
LinkedIn, you talk about negotiating rates, negotiating, even with the brand side, increasing the budget. So how would you negotiate, let's say the brand first? Like, how would you say, hey, we need a little bit more money on your side?
Yeah, I mean, if you can, I always try to feel out where they are first, if at all possible. I mean, a lot of brands aren't going to come straight out and tell you, like, here's the budget, but I love it when they do. And then, we can always push for a little bit more. My take is like always, I know what my creators' rates are. Sometimes I know, again, if they're super aligned for this campaign or they're really in demand this month, that might push that rate up a little bit more for a specific campaign or a specific time period. But I'm always going to pitch like those full rates, what I would ideally like to get, but always let them know, here is where their typical rates would be. Always, happy to hear what budget you had in mind as well. And usually we can find a sweet spot somewhere in the middle. Now, if my creators' rates are 6,000 and the brand had 600 in mind, like it's probably not going to work out. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So when that does happen, do you usually say, "Oh, it's not gonna work out" if they come back with you with like a $600 budget?
Yeah, typically,
Yeah.
no, it depends on the creator again, but the ones that are very in demand and have larger rates, like, yeah, we'll let them know, like, the details of this campaign sound great. We think it would be really aligned. However, their rates are typically a lot higher than this. So if there's no flexibility on the budget, we may have to pass on this one.
Yeah. And so if that is the case, right, like a hypothetical,
Hmm.
let's say your creator rate is like a $6,000
Yeah.
budget, and then they come back to you with like 1,500 or 2,000.
Yeah.
Is that something
Yeah.
that is still, does that still interest the creators at all? Taking these
It
deals?
really depends on the creator. Most people, if I have a creator that truly is charging 6,000, probably not. But if it's not like an insulting offer, I'm going to bring it to the talent, and ultimately
Mm,
it's their decision. And it really comes down to like sometimes what their next few weeks looks like.
that's
If
true.
they are like, well, I don't have anything coming up for the next couple weeks, that might give them a little bit more flexibility to take a smaller deal.
Hmm.
But yeah, it really comes down to them and what's going on in their life right now.
Yeah, I agree. Content creators, I feel like what we do is to make sure that they don't do anything behind the scenes and they focus on creating, because that's what
Yeah.
they're really good at.
Yeah.
And our expertise is kind of, facilitate and become a part of their team so that it makes everything easy on that end.
Yep.
So then when you're negotiating creator rates, right?
Yeah.
Let's say they're not your creator, let's say they're a creator from a different agency or they're independent. How would you negotiate with the rate that they came up with?
So in that scenario, I only work with creators that are exclusively signed to
Oh,
my teams because that's
awesome.
that's all I do. I'm not
Yeah.
working with brand side in our
Hmm.
agency, so I don't have a great answer for that because that's not really in my wheelhouse.
No, that's awesome. I'm actually kind of curious. Like, how many creators do you have under you?
Yeah, so under me specifically, we have a roster cap of 10 people at our
Hmm.
agency. Right now, I have about six. So I am still, growing my roster, but I'm with only like four or so slots left. I'm pretty picky at this point. But yeah, we devote like a lot of time to each individual creator, and we don't really work with anybody beyond that.
Yeah. No, I think that's pretty much similar to what we do here as well.
Yeah.
Do you guys help them with growing their social media at all? We're
Yes, for
primarily.
sure.
Oh. Mm,
Depends on like it depends on what their goal is. But
hmm.
yeah, if I have somebody, if I sign somebody that needs to grow, that is almost the expectation that like you are going to work with our team to grow this to a place to where we can, monetize in a way that makes sense for me to have you on one of these select spots on my roster. So
Right.
we definitely work on strategy with them. And for me specifically, I'm really big on that. I know
Hmm.
all agents are a little bit different in how they work with their talent, but that's a huge part of how I work with them. And I'm really looking for people that like that excites them and they want to work in that way. Like not just, okay, show up and you get me some deals for where I'm at and I'm going to keep doing the same thing forever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I'm noticing that with more agencies coming up, they're only caring about brand deals and the money transactional part of it.
Yeah.
Um, Man, like I can't tell you how much I care more about the relationship more than the money and the brand side.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's like I usually am pretty picky too with the creators that we sign on.
Yeah.
Um, we come up with like content strategies and content pillars to kind of help
Yep.
them with how they want to grow in their social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with a lot of these, when I talk to my previous creators that were in previous agencies, they're always talking to me. They're like, yeah, it just felt like it was just all transactional. Everything
Yeah.
that we do was just money based and business based. And
Yep.
for me, like it kind of like hurt my heart a little bit because I am an
Yeah.
empath. But when it comes to that, I'm
Yeah.
like, I think it's really important to create that relationship. And so even for me, I have influencer marketing managers as well. But I like to stay looped into all of the conversations. So I'm inside the group chats. I'm like texting
Yeah.
as well. I'm like saying, hey, there's this deal that comes in, and I'm helping facilitate. And even though in a business standpoint, it's not scalable, right? Quote
Yeah.
unquote
Sure.
scalable. But I think at the same time, it pays dividends when you're able
It
to
really
create that
does. Yeah.
relationship. And even like when I'm starting this podcast, like they know who I am and they
Yeah.
already had this conversation and they're like, yeah, I'll come on. I would love to do this. And
That's
so for
awesome.
me, it's like that's the best part, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, I guess I'm sure that's a similar thing for you as well. Like you creating that relationship with your creators, you know, how important is that to you and in your business?
It really, I mean, that's almost why I got into this is because that's one of the things that's translated across like every business that I have
Hmm.
done in different ways is helping people grow in one way or another. And even towards the end of my career as an esthetician and a business owner, I was a business coach. I also had a podcast. I love to teach. I love to share. And I love to help others be successful. So when I've learned something, I want to share it with people. So that's honestly like the part of my job that I enjoy. And I want people that want to be there for that and that's what they're looking for. And then ultimately, when we can do that and create success together and then see the brand deals coming in, it's almost more satisfying to know that
Mm,
oh my gosh, we worked together, we created this plan and now we're seeing it pay off. It's just like growing a business. It's just like being an entrepreneur and seeing like look at all of the, strategy I put in and it's paying off and that's the fun part rather than just like sitting at a computer all day and sending a million outreach emails that you may get some answers. But I would rather devote the time into growing my creators so that those brand deals like actually start to flow rather
I
than
see.
us having to like chase them down.
Do you still do outreach on your end
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
all the time, huh? And
Yeah,
it
all
never
the time.
stops.
Yeah.
It never stops. I know that
Yeah.
feeling. Um, when we talk about brands and creators, obviously there needs to be some sort of alignment, whether
Yeah.
that's the content style versus content guidelines, or even the brand itself. It needs to align with the type of content that they make. Where's the biggest friction in that? Like, do you see any friction when it comes down to alignment in general?
Alignment like with brands?
Yeah, with brands and creators.
Yeah, sometimes yes. With some of the more like really niche creators, it's hard sometimes to like explain, okay, this would really make sense because it's almost like we know this would make sense. It's almost like an inside joke with their audience. They know
Hmm.
that like, let's say Kate drinks Dr. Pepper every day and like she's obsessed with it, but like it doesn't make sense for the brand because they're like this is not a food and beverage page, whatever it is. Like sometimes it's a harder sell, but just having the content to back that up is huge. So I've had so many creators over the years that like don't get that somebody that's like, I eat Taco Bell every day. Taco Bell should sponsor me. And I'm like, great. Do you post about Taco Bell every day though? No. you know?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
like it has to make sense. I get that it can be like a niche weird thing, but it has to be like your audience needs to know that you eat Taco Bell every day if you want me to pitch you to Taco Bell, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree. I've had a lot of creators as well. They're like, yeah, I want to work with this brand, this brand. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, did you post anything about like their
Yeah.
competitors or any like
Yeah.
anywhere near
Yeah.
that space? And they're like, nah. And I'm like,
No.
okay, then
Yeah.
obviously it's gonna come to a point where
Yeah.
that's less of a possibility. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
where do you see creator economy headed in the next couple of years? Because
Oh,
it's
it's a good
changed so
question.
much. It's changed so much over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I wish I had a crystal ball. I'm just kind of riding the wave at this point. I'm really interested to see, um, yeah, how brands continue to utilize paid partnerships versus like affiliate partnerships.
Mm.
I'm seeing that change a lot. I'm seeing again like the value placed on creators just for views and things change a lot. I wish I knew where we would be a year from now, 2 years from now, but I'm, yeah, currently looking at the trends and riding the wave, and we will see.
Exactly. Yeah, same here. I'm always open-minded to adapting whenever possible
Yeah,
because we
so
never
important.
know when a social media platform is going to close on all of a sudden. There
Yeah.
was a scare with TikTok banning like a couple years ago,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
everyone was texting me. They're like, "Oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Is my social media going to, cancel out or something?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think the number one thing as a creator and even as an influencer marketing manager in general is adaptability, right?
It
Can you
is. It's
adapt
so
to a
important.
new social media platform
Yeah.
with new algorithms, right? And
Yeah.
so I agree. Like that is super, super important. One thing that I'm also noticing is creator events are happening more
Yeah.
and more.
Yeah.
Like, have you been to any, or have you ever spoken in any of these events?
Not yet, but it is a goal over the next year. I'm trying to pick a few that I want to go to. But I'm with you there. I think, as a creator too, and as a manager, like the times you can get face to face is so important.
Hmm.
For me, I do that more in a local networking kind of sense. I'm here
Hmm.
in Nashville, so there's a lot of events, a lot of networking, a lot of like women in business stuff, and that's how I make a lot of face to face connections. But for creators, like yeah, get out there, go to a convention, go to an event, and meet people in person as much as you can.
I agree. As AI is starting to become more and more prevalent in the
Hmm.
industry, it's way more important to show face and
Yeah,
to have that network as that
yeah,
human to human connection
yep,
because we got to go against the grind now, right? Like
yeah,
back then it was like, okay, let's use AI everything, and now everything's
yeah,
AIified. So
yeah,
now it's at the point where we need to go make that face to
yeah.
face connection with others.
And I'll say, I mean, a prime example, I have a creator I've been working with for over a year now, and she had a brand she wanted to work with, and I've pitched them a couple times. I haven't gotten a response. It's tracking down the email, it's finding the right person, hoping they respond. Never got a response. But she was going to a convention in New York and that brand was going to be there. And I was like, girl, I know it's scary. I'm not going to be there with you, but like go to their booth and just introduce yourself and like do something, have a card ready. And she did. And, she made the connection with the exact person I had been emailing.
Oh
And so she
wow.
could say, like my manager has reached out to you, and so
Mhm.
then I was able to follow up and they had built a connection. We had a brand deal like 2 weeks later, and now she's working with them because she is a perfect fit. It's just really hard when they're getting so many emails, you get
Yeah,
lost.
yeah, I agree. I feel like so many influencers and creators are emailing these brand representatives
Hmm.
for an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about that. When creators are outreaching to brands, what can they do to kind of make them stand out in that email?
I mean, it's so hard because it's still things still get lost, but I think it just has you have to sound like a real person. You can't copy and
Yeah.
paste a template. Don't write something in AI and then just send it to every brand. Like I think again sharing an actual idea, sharing an actual creative pitch, but then also referencing like what you know that brand is actually marketing right now. Like if they just came out with a new product or you know they're about to, like talk about that, specific launch and how your content is relevant to it, and then the creative idea you have around even a specific product, not just like I would love to work with you.
Exactly, because they get 1,000 of those,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so for me too, like when I tell my creators, I'm like, the number one thing that we do is make sure that you stand out. We do the
Yeah.
most research as possible on like the most
Yeah.
recent launch, any news, did they get acquired by any other company, and we make sure that we are on top of the knowledge because when it comes to pitching yourself, we need
Yeah.
to make sure that we already done the research and
Yeah,
show
for
some
sure.
effort. Yeah, and definitely, the one that I always say is that money's made in the follow up, and so
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
have
Oh
to
yeah.
follow up. You can't just email once and hope that they read it. Email gets lost everywhere,
Yeah.
even for myself. And so for me, always email and then follow up
Like
multiple
five
times.
times.
Yeah, like literally, like they're like, oh, am I not bothering them? Five
No.
times, like
Yeah. I've had brands thank me, like, oh my gosh,
exactly.
thank you so much for being persistent because yes, we wanted to do this and I keep forgetting to respond to you and thank you.
No, exactly. And it's really important that we do that. You
Yeah.
know, we got to be persistent when it comes down to outreaching and making sure that
Yeah.
we put ourselves out there.
Yeah.
Um, but here's the one thing, right? If you could fix, like I guess, like a broken thing about how this industry operates, what would that be?
That's a hard question. I mean, I think that is the biggest hurdle, at least. It's not an easy fix, but is just the connection and the communication. So yeah, figuring out a better way to connect brands and creators and like communicate efficiently, I think is one of the biggest things.
Have you noticed that there's a bunch of platforms out there that are being created for
Yeah.
communication? How do you feel about those platforms?
I actually love those platforms. As far as like, you mean like creator marketplace kind of
Yeah.
platforms where you can apply for campaigns? I
Mm-hmm.
I like those. I mean, because you can see, I like to be able to see what brands are actually casting for, and some of them are better than others. But it does take the guesswork away from the cold pitch emails. Because one thing I don't love about cold pitching is we can pitch this idea, we can paint this picture, everything I just said, we can talk about their latest product launch, but we actually have no idea what that brand is looking for right now. We have no idea.
Mm,
If they are smart, like what we said before, they have a whole marketing funnel built out after this and very specific plans. They're looking for a male in California with green eyes and two dogs. And you know what I mean? Like they're
yeah.
looking for something so specific. So, like, my super creative pitch, like, is not going to land if that's not what they're looking for. But
Hmm.
I personally love being able to go on those sites and be like, okay, Swiffer is casting for dog creators and this is their budget. Like, I just love the clarity that offers.
And so, do you negotiate through the platform, or do you kind of go out and do the outreach on like different platforms?
Yeah, it depends. I usually get all my creators signed up for those platforms and make sure we're applying for anything that's relevant. And then they all kind of work differently. Some of them it's
Hmm.
just like, here's the campaign, take it or leave it. Some of them, a real human will follow up and then you can actually start the conversation, which is always preferred.
Yeah, of course. And I've been noticing that a lot of platforms are being created because I think that's the one thing that is broken about this industry is like there's
Yeah.
no common ground where brands and creators can actually communicate.
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of why agencies exist in the first place is to kind of
Yeah.
bridge that gap.
Yep.
Do you ever feel that it is going to hurt the agency life at all, like with those platforms existing?
I don't think so, just because it still takes so much time, first of all. Even right now, sure, my creators could have signed up for all those things on their own and sit there and apply for them all day, but they do not have the time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and everything else we've talked about what else a manager does. We are your team. We're here to support you. We're here to help you grow in so many ways. I don't think that just like our value is not defined by just connecting you with a brand, even though some creators think it is, but the ones that are really going to be successful understand that that relationship is so much bigger, broader, and more important. So I don't think, that piece is really going to change much.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. I agree with that. Um, Really interesting question, but have you ever had a horror brand story where it was just like a
Ooh.
terrible time, terrible experience? You don't have to name them, but just tell me about what happened.
I've had I haven't had a horror story, I would say. I
Oh,
have
really?
had more like absolutely just like horrible communication.
Mm.
I've had some that have just drug on for months and months and months of like, content revision, like not getting back to us for weeks, and then having like 10 rounds of content revision,
Wow.
just like crazy things. But, more just annoying than like total horror stories. I think my biggest like horrifying moments in
Mhm.
my career with this have honestly been more like creator side, like
Oh,
sign, and it's why I will not sign creators that don't, I can't tell from the beginning are very responsible, are going to turn things in on time.
oh gosh.
So I think like my biggest horror story is like getting for me what was like the biggest deal with the biggest company of my career, and then my creator just like ghosting.
Oh no. Oh no.
So
That's
that's
gotta be
more
the
on them.
worst.
And then
That's
I did not work with them again.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same boat. I've had those relationships with creators where, they don't respond fast or they don't do this, and
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like, there's a deal that might just pass by. Like, you have to
Yeah.
respond. You have to respond, and like for me, you know, those tend to be probably the hardest as well.
Yeah.
When I sign on a creator and they kind of have that tendency or personality, after that brand deal's done, I usually do go over and be like, hey, if this isn't something that we're like
Yeah.
online with, then I think
Yep.
it's best that we just separate because you
Yeah.
know time allocation is also really important for us.
Very
How we spend
important.
our time and how we you know put our time towards creators that really care about this stuff,
Yeah,
right? And
for sure.
if they care about making money, then you got to be responsive and
Yeah.
making sure
Yeah.
that you talk to
I
them.
always say like you've just got to want this as bad as I want it for you. That's
No,
all.
exactly. And I'm like, this is such a good deal, right? The
Yeah.
rate is there. Like, you just have to respond and make sure that we're doing it on time.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing for me too. And I'm like, we need to work on this a little bit more.
Yep.
What would you give an advice to a creator that wants to break into the creator economy space? Like, they're starting out, they have like 10,000 followers,
Yeah.
and they want to start making money. How would you go about that?
I think like have a plan, get organized, know what your niche is, know what your content pillars are. Don't just fly by the seat of your pants. I see a lot of people at that stage just showing up and like they post what they feel when they feel it. They're like,
Mm,
this is just what's happening this week. There's no plan. It's just, here's my week. Or they see one thing go viral and they just try to repeat it, like they're just chasing those numbers without a solid, like, okay, what's your page about? What's the plan? Are you posting about it every week? Start integrating brands. You don't have to be salesy or make ads, but if the topic that you're talking about, the main topic of your page doesn't lend itself to any brands, then like it's not going to make sense ever. So start getting comfortable integrating natural products in and tagging them.
I agree. One thing I tell my creators is, number one, you need to find out what your page is about, like you said, and what is it for? Is it for
Yeah.
entertainment purposes? Is it for
Yeah.
educational purposes? Is it for, just showing your, daily life, right?
Yeah.
People are interested in that as well. And so you got to kind of hone down on what the purpose of your
Yeah.
content is, and then build around that. Because
Right.
if you're, like you said, if they're just trying to chase trends, they just
Mm-hmm.
do a dance, and then over here they do like
Yeah.
some skincare routine. When brands look at that, they're confused. They're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
what type of content is she? What content
Yeah.
creator is she? And the one thing that I always say is, for creators, your social media page is your resume.
Yeah.
And so
It
when
is.
when you present yourself, you don't present your media kit. They actually just go to your social media
Yeah.
page and see what type of content that you're creating. And so I
Yep.
always say, make your portfolio the best it can every single day because your
Yeah.
portfolio is changing every single day.
Yeah. And not, I talked to a creator the other day that I kind of was telling her, like, if you want me to pitch you to these kinds of brands, I need to see it. I need to see those kinds of brands in
Mm,
your content. And she was like, there is. Here's a post I did a year and a half ago and it's like, they need to see, if you want to be pitched to these kinds of brands, they need to see it in the first six posts on your page. Like
mm,
the first six posts on your page need to make sense to why you're a fit for that brand. Like they're not going to scroll back,
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. So how do you feel about creators, I guess, like doing free advertisement just to get a potential brand deal? Like, do you still recommend creators doing this?
I think there's like a middle ground. I don't at all think that, let's say Revlon sends you a lipstick and you create a
Hmm.
reel about the Revlon lipstick. You know what I mean? But if you're a makeup creator and you're doing a get ready with me and you want to mention that the lipstick you're wearing today is from Revlon, great. But it needs to integrate into the content you were already going to post that serves your page, and you need to tag the brand, but don't create an ad for free. Don't like take a PR box, and I don't even like unboxings at this point.
Oh, same
Like
here. I don't think it does
just
well. Yeah.
just use anything you get for free or even buy on your own, use it as, a talking point in content you already want to create. But yeah, don't create like a dedicated post.
I agree. I think it's just all part of like integrating, right? It's just
Yeah.
showing that you are using the product, but not really mentioning it, right? So
Right.
like you said, if they're doing a get ready with me, maybe just having the little label in the
Yeah.
background right here
Yeah.
could be a part of pitching style, right? And be
Yeah.
like, hey, by the way, look at this video. It did
Yep, it's there.
50,000
Yeah.
views and it's there. It's the name is
Yeah.
there, but I didn't mention it. I
Yeah.
would love to mention it. So that see,
Yeah.
like for me, that's the best progression when it comes to pitching yourself for a brand
Yep.
deal.
Yep.
Um, super super interesting industry. I feel like because
Yeah,
it's changing every single day, right?
it is. And
And
our
so,
side of it's changing, and then social media is changing. And it's like,
hmm
this is a platform that we utilize for marketing right now, but it's also a social platform. And we
hmm
have to keep up with trends on all sides of it.
which platform? Talking about platforms, which
Yeah.
platform do you have the most success with?
For me, it's always been Instagram.
Yeah.
And I think that's just like I was a creator on Instagram. That's where I grew my business. That's what I'm comfortable with. But ultimately, it's where at least most of my influencers, like it's where the deals are going to pay the most.
hmm
Usually, they have the target audience that they're looking for. But I mean, we do have some, it depends on the creator. I have some creators that are bigger on TikTok for sure. But Instagram is probably the front runner.
How do you feel about the rate difference between TikTok and Instagram?
Yeah, it's hard because it's like they're producing the same piece of content, and it does depend on, I do have one creator, let's say, she's got like 1 million followers on TikTok and like 500K on Instagram. Like her TikTok rate is still going to be bigger. It just
Right.
is.
Right.
And her views are higher. But for people where it's kind of the same across the board, I do get it. I do respect it because it really is about the value that the brand is getting from it. And if
hmm
that's where their target audience is, like that's what they're going to pay for. So it's frustrating sometimes when you're creating the same amount of content, but I get it from a marketing perspective at the same time.
Yeah, totally. Do you work with YouTube at all? Do you have creators that are
Not as
YouTubers?
much personally.
Okay.
I mean,
hmm
Instagram and TikTok are my bread and butter. I have a
hmm
couple people that are like starting YouTube channels, but it's not their big platform at all.
Right, right. And I feel like YouTube is probably the hardest to grow on,
Yeah, yeah,
for
it's
sure.
hard.
Like it's really hard, super saturated. But Instagram, I think that what I like about Instagram is that they actually push out a lot of new creators.
Hmm.
Something that I've been
Yeah,
noticing is if they have smaller amount of followers but they make really good content, I realize that that content gets pushed a lot.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
do you feel like that's the same for TikTok?
Um, no.
Yeah.
I feel TikTok is like, and this is just for me personally. Again, like I have never, I have never been a creator on TikTok. I feel so
Mm,
comfortable with Instagram because I have grown pages on Instagram. TikTok feels so like wild and random to me. I know that it's not, but it's different. Obviously the content is less polished. It's more, but it is heavy in storytelling. It is heavy in like, just getting people engaged and listening. So I do feel like it's very easy for certain type of people to go viral on TikTok. But it's definitely for different things, different reasons. It has to almost be like a story that's being told that people are really
mm.
invested in. Whereas Instagram may push your content just because it's really beautiful, and eye catching.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I agree. I think the way I view the platforms is TikTok is kind of like for the virality of it,
yeah, totally.
right? You're kind of like seen to more people because people tend to scroll on TikTok a little bit more than Reels.
Yeah.
And then Instagram is more for like the niche audiences where they want to
Hmm.
see a specific page, and then
Yeah.
your algorithm shows you exactly what you want to see,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then and it's way easier conversion funnel, by the way, because Instagram
Yeah.
has a way
Yeah.
better inbuilt, like, click on the bio to like this page.
Exactly.
It's way better than TikTok. I do feel like TikTok is trying to make that shift over to the TikTok shop.
Yeah.
Have you gotten any deals done with TikTok shop at all?
I mean, we've had some deals where we will integrate that, but I don't have anybody that like that's what they're doing is TikTok
Mm,
shop. And I have brands reach out that are like, "Do you have any creators that, this is what they do?" And I
mhm.
really just don't at this point. It's not the kind of creators that I manage, but I know they're very much trying to like push that aspect of it.
Yeah, they're super trying, and I know that a lot of brands reached out to me as well. They're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we want to do TikTok shop," and I'm like, "Okay, do you even have a strategy with the TikTok shop
Yeah,
right now?"
yeah.
Uh, but for me, I do agree. Instagram probably is the best platform when it comes to
Yeah.
brand deals, because you know we've also worked with a lot of DM automation channels that actually
Yeah.
helps with the marketing funnel of it.
Yep.
A lot of creators don't know about it, and they're kind of reluctant to try that because the brands are wanting that. But the one thing that I always tell them is, if you make a brand happy, more than likely not, you're gonna work with
Yeah.
them again. And
Yeah.
so for me, it's like you gotta build that relationship as well. It's not just me and the brand; it's also you guys and the
Yep.
brand as well. That's really important. Um, One last thing, you
Yeah.
know, anything that you want to say about the creator economy, and any positive feedback that you see in the industry and how you see it going within a couple of years from now.
Um, Man, I think we've covered a lot. But I don't know, just one thing that I love about what I do and working with creators is that, it's given a lot of people a platform, where anything's possible and you can create content and be creative or share something that you want to share in the world and that actually be your career. And how amazing it is that we have these platforms where anyone can just share what they love, share what they do, or make something creative, and then people like us can come in and actually help them make a career out of that is just a really cool thing.
It is a really cool thing. Do you recommend creators to sign up with agencies?
Only when you're ready.
Mm,
I think it's not the best move if you're just starting out unless you just blew up, you know.
okay.
I think there needs to be brand interest there. I think it's important for creators to at least get a few brand deals under their belt, have some on their page, understand how this works before they're ready to bring on an agency. I always say, like, an agent is there to elevate what you're doing. It's kind of like in my business, when I went from being a solo entrepreneur to bringing on a team, that was because I had, like, okay, I knew what I was doing, and now
Mm,
I'm ready to scale. And so I have to hire a manager and an assistant and all of this. It's the same thing for creators. Like, grow a thing until you're ready to scale, and then we're the team you bring on to help you get to the next level.
I agree. For us, we try our best to kind of bridge the gap.
Yeah.
But if there's no gap to even fill, what's the
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
right? And so
Hmm.
I agree. Like, you should have a couple of brand deals under your belt. Any other qualifications that they should kind of keep in mind before they reach out to other agencies?
Um, I think, yeah, having a few brand deals under their belt. I have signed a few people super early, but it is because they grew really quickly.
Mm,
I honestly tell people like you need to feel a little overwhelmed before you hire help. Whether it's I'm overwhelmed because so many brands are reaching out, or I'm overwhelmed because, oh my gosh, I'm posting so much and it's taking so much to manage this page and I've grown so fast, I need help. Like there should be a little bit of tension there. It shouldn't be like, I'm trying this and nothing's working, so let me hire a manager to make it work for me. You
yeah,
should be like, oh no, I just got really busy. I need help.
yeah.
There should
The
be
one
that feeling.
exactly. The one thing that I do tell them is if you start feeling that you're spending way more time doing behind the scenes
Hmm.
stuff
Yeah.
than actually creating, I think that's like a good signal
Yeah,
for you to be like, okay,
absolutely.
maybe I should work with the team here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, we talked about so many different things,
We
Caitlin.
did.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Um,
Thanks for connecting.
if anyone wants to follow you, can they follow you anywhere?
Absolutely. I mean, on LinkedIn, it's Caitlin Hart, and on Instagram, it's Caitlin C. Hart. And you can see all the things I'm doing.
Awesome, Caitlin. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope I can bring you back. I think this was a really productive
Yeah,
conversation. I would love to, build this relationship that I have
of
with you,
course.
Caitlin.
Yeah.
Um, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure talking
Yeah.
to you.
Same here.
Thank
I'm
you
excited to see
so
what you
much.
do and, yeah, where this
Thank
goes.
you